Hey everybody, Dave here, Wags Automotive again, and I don't know if you guys watched my shorts I put on last night, but yeah, I give the new meaning to the word bottle fed. So anyhow, I was driving this car home from the show in Van Buren yesterday. If you've seen my video of that, there's a lot of beautiful cars there, and I got about 18 miles away from my house, and all of a sudden the car just started slowing down and just shut off and died. Pulled over the side of the road, cranked it, and nothing happened. It wouldn't start. I just so happened to stop in front of a really nice guy's house. His name's Chuck, and thank you, Chuck, for helping me. He came out and we talked about it, and he thought it was out of gas, but I had crawled underneath of it and tapped on the gas tank, and I could tell it had gas in it, so I didn't think that's what it was, but he had some gas there, and he said, hey, let's put some gas in it and see what happens. I'm like, okay. So I put a little bit of gas in it. That didn't do anything, but I found this bottle laying alongside the road right where I stopped, and so I poured gas in it and filled the bowl of the carburetor up, you know, down the vent, like I always show you guys to do, and it started, but then it died and wouldn't run. So we had gas in the tank, and to make a long story short, I was trying to get it to Winona to get it off the highway, and I couldn't get it to run more than a couple seconds. As soon as the carburetor ran out of gas, it'd die. I drove it about a mile. I'd stop and fill it up and drive some more, and then the battery went dead, and he had to go get some jumper cables and come back and jump me, and I drove it some more, but it didn't work. So then I came up with the idea, maybe if I take the fuel line loose from the carburetor and put this bottle, somehow put it at a higher point than the carburetor is, the gravity will feed the carburetor and I can drive it. So at first I put the bottle, I wired it to the hood, and I shut the hood all the way, and it drove and shut off. That didn't work, and I was really scared about starting a fire, but fortunately that didn't happen. But anyhow, so then I left the hood up to the safety latch and tried to wire this thing as high as I could get it, and that didn't work. Well, then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to wire it up here and leave the hood all the way open so it's running down and see if it works. And I was about 1.5 miles away from the gas station there in Winona, and I filled this bottle up, started it up, and I was driving, you know, kind of on the shoulder, kind of off the shoulder, watching for cars behind. But it's kind of hard to drive with your hood up. I don't know if you've ever driven with your hood up before, but it's a nightmare. And I didn't want to damage the car, I didn't want to damage the hood, so I was going really slow, about 25 miles an hour. And I made it to the gas station. You saw the video where I said we made it, and I pulled into the gas station. I was actually coasting at that point because it died, it ran out of fuel. So I was actually able to do that. I was really surprised. But, you know, in a pinch, you know, if I would have had a good battery and a can of gas, I could have driven this car all the way home. I mean, it would have been a nightmare to try to drive 18 miles with my hood up. And I was getting a lot of stares, a lot of really weird looks, and there might be some videos out there on TikTok or somewhere of me driving down the road with my hood up. I don't know. And, you know, great if there is. I don't care. But anyhow, I got it off the highway and into a parking lot where it was safe, and I didn't worry about cars whizzing by me at 70 miles an hour and semis and everything else. So we got it to the parking lot, and then I came home. Chuck brought me home. Oh, by the way, I called AAA when this car broke down at about 6 o'clock. It was about 5:30, I think. I called AAA for a tow, and at 7 o'clock, they still hadn't found me a tow. And so I called them back, and I said, well, look, I got a guy here who's willing to help me. If I pay him money cash, can he write a handwritten receipt, and I can turn that in and get a refund? They're like, well, you got to have an actual tow company do it. So, you know, AAA is pretty much worthless. I don't even know why I got them. I probably won't keep them any longer, but they can't help me. You know, I was out there. They basically told me I was screwed. They couldn't help me. And then when I finally got home, because Chuck brought me home to get my truck and trailer, while I was here, I got a phone call from AAA, and they said, we're canceling your call. And I'm like, what? And they said, we're canceling your call. We can't find anybody to tow you. I'm like, well, I know there's tow companies around here because I've looked online and they're on there, you know, but apparently you don't want to do your job, so whatever. I mean, I got my trailer, I went back to Winona, and the funny thing was, while I was here getting all my stuff together, I got a phone call because I had the car parked in a parking lot, and there's a guy there who's like, "Hey, you got this Roadrunner for sale?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, "Are you in the grocery store?" And I kind of lied to him. I said, "No, I'm at a friend's house." I didn't want him to know where I was, so I said, "No, I'm at a friend's house, but I can be up there in a couple minutes if you want to look at it." And he said, "Okay." So I jumped in my truck and drove down there, and I told him, I said, "You know, I didn't want you to think the car broke down. Cause, you know, if you're interested in buying it, then, you know, I don't want you to think it's a piece of junk." But I explained to him what happened, and I'll show you guys here in a little bit. I'll show you what I found. And it's not the fuel pump, by the way. It's not. So I thought it was, but it ain't. And I'll show you how I determined that. But so we talked for a while. I actually started the car up on the bottle and let him listen to it run and everything. We talked about it. And, you know, I don't know. He's on the fence, but, you know, if he buys it, fine. If he don't, well, whatever. It's, you know, these cars are coming of age, and so, you know, it's going to gain value, so I'm not worried about it one way or the other. But anyhow, let me show you what I did yesterday to get this car the 3 miles from, or mile and a half from where it broke down to the gas station where you saw me when I got out and I showed you what I did. Okay, so I had this bottle, and I just had it wired up here with a piece of wire. And thanks again to Chuck. He's an old country boy. He carries a mechanics wire, a roll of mechanics wire in his vehicle. So I took the cap off this water bottle, okay, and I took my pocket knife and I twisted it until I got a hole in it. It was a little smaller than the rubber hose, and I shoved the hose in there, okay. And then I took this, filled it up with gas. I'll do that here real quick. I don't want to do it over the top of the car because I don't want to spill gas on my engine. So I'll do it down here off camera. All right, and then I took my bottle and I filled up my carburetor. Make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. Get it down here where you can see it. There we go. Filled up my carburetor on a Holly carburetor. It has a vent here and another vent back here. So these go into the bowls of the carburetor. So I fill it up right there with my bottle. I'm spilling gas. I don't like to do that, but I'm spilling a little bit. All right. And I'll add a little bit more gas to the bottle. Okay. All right, now I take the bottle. Of course, you want it to be upright when you screw the. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think you guys can see what I'm doing here. Hold on. Okay. Make sure I get it all in here. There we go. All right. Take the bottle, screw the cap into it, but you want it to be upright, obviously, so you don't spill it and make a mess. And once I tighten the lid up on it, it's pretty much sealed. And see the bubbles? See the air bubbles? It's filling up the carburetor. So that's how I know I'm getting fuel in the carburetor. And then I just hung it from the hood like this, like so. There we go. All right. Okay, so you saw the bubbles, you saw it filling up. Now it should start right up, and we'll back it off the trailer. Okay. All right, let me crawl in there and start it up. And you'll probably see more bubbles coming down that bottle when I start it up, because it'll be, as it as it uses fuel, the air goes up into the bottle, and fuel comes down from gravity. So technically, you don't even need a fuel pump to run a car. You just need gravity. But obviously, you're not going to do this driving down the road. So anyhow, let me show you. All right, got to crawl through the window. Kind of difficult on this trailer, but I got it. Oh. Gravity. All right, now let me get over here so we can see what we're looking at. I'm gonna take this thing off the mount. Okay, now I don't know how well I can show this to you guys, but I'm gonna try to show it to you. So imagine driving down the highway and cars are going by you, and this is your view because you got a bottle wired under the hood and you're trying to get the car off the highway so you don't get killed. That's the view I had yesterday, so it wasn't much fun. All right, let's start this thing up and I'll show you guys something. Okay, now car's kind of loud. Now see the bubbles? See the bubbles coming up in the bottle? That's because the car's using fuel, so the gravity's feeding the carburetor, and it's leaking a tiny bit, but because there's air, because the bottle's sealed, and there's air coming up, it's only leaking a little bit, so it's kind of sealing it. But if you look down here at my fuel pump, let me zoom in on that. That's my line coming out of my fuel pump. Now watch this. Now see the bubbles? Well, crap, it didn't do it. But yesterday when I revved it up, fuel was spurting up out of that line, just a fine spray. So I knew the pump was working. I knew it was trying to work, but it wasn't working. So then that's when I crawled underneath of it and looked and figured out that the fuel lines were broken in the back. All right, let's get this thing in the garage. I don't know if I can make it before I run out of fuel or not. I'm about down to half a tank, or half a bottle. Bottle fed Roadrunner. All right, let's see if we can get it in. Oh, nope, I can't get in the garage because my truck's in the way. I gotta move my truck. All right, I'm gonna shut it off. Hold on. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Hold on, guys, I gotta move my truck. Okay, so now let's crawl underneath the back of this car and I'll show you the real reason why this thing quit on the highway on me yesterday. And if you look at this car is a beautiful car. I mean, it's, you know, it's obviously had work done to it. It's been repainted. Someone put nice wheels and tires on it. You know, the motor on it's been rebuilt or redone. You know, it's got this fancy dual exhaust on it. Now watch this, or look at this. This doesn't make any sense to me. All right, let's crawl underneath here so I can show you. Adjust my phone here. Okay. Whoops. Sorry, I'm trying to get... There we go. Okay. Now, if we crawl under here, here's the gas tank. And right up there, and I'm not sure why this is like that, but it is. I'm trying to get up here where you can see it. There we go. Okay. Now we can zoom in. There's 4 lines that go from the gas tank into this like box thing. I don't even know what it is. There's 4 lines that go into that. 4 fuel lines, 4 rubber lines, okay? And then there's 1 rubber line that comes out up there on the top somewhere. It comes up over that bracket and goes to a metal fuel line that goes down down the frame rail, and that's what feeds your engine. But if you look at these lines, look at that one. Look at those 4. See a problem? So why in the world would somebody do all this work to this car and make it look this nice and leave 50-year-old fuel lines on it? It makes no sense at all to me. But that's what happened. These fuel lines were cracking and they started sucking air. And I'll show you that. Well, you saw that when I looked at showed you the engine, how it runs and how the fuel pump does. So anyhow, that's the problem under here, okay? So that's the real reason why this car quit on me. I didn't know that, but I happened to crawl underneath here and saw it, so I thought I'd point it out to you while I'm doing this video today. All right, let's look at the rest of it. All right, so I showed you guys what's underneath the back of the car since I was having to move my truck anyhow. So now let's move this bottle-fed Roadrunner, see if we can get it to go in the shop without running out of gas. I don't know. We'll try. And again, this is my view, so this is what I get to look at when I'm driving. And it's kind of nerve-wracking. All right, let's see if we can go. And I had a guy comment on one of my shorts, and he said, get with the times, dude, or something like that, because hardly anybody has who has carburetors anymore. And I responded back to him and said, millions of people have carburetors, and even if this car had EFI, it wouldn't matter. And actually, if it had EFI, I wouldn't have been able to do this, because EFI requires an electric fuel pump and a lot of high pressure, and I wouldn't have been able to move this car anywhere. I would have had to have it towed from right where it was. So the fact that it is carbureted, and the fact that I was able to do what I did with the bottle, attests to the fact that it's a good thing I had it carbureted, because if I hadn't had it carbureted, I would have been stranded alongside the road, and I really didn't want to leave my car where it was. So doing this method, I was able to get it to a parking lot that was about 3 miles away, get it there safely, and as you can see, I made it inside the shop, still running. So we're almost out of gas, but again, you can see the bubbles coming up there as it feeds the carburetor. So this works. I mean, if you ever do a first start video on a car that's been sitting for, forever, you could actually do this method right here and just hook the fuel line. Get you a long piece of rubber hose and a water bottle, fill it up with water, hang it from the hood, and you can start the car up and let it run. So, it's kind of a cool thing that I found this out yesterday. I figured it out, but it took me a while to think about it, but then I figured, well, I'll give it a shot, and it actually worked. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? You like my bottle-fed Roadrunner method to get me off the highway? I don't know, maybe you think it's dumb, but hey, it worked. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm starting to see a lot of people watching my videos. I got to get busy and get some stuff down here. And there's the Chevelle, there's the S10 back there. So you guys want to know about the S10, I haven't forgotten. it's coming up really quick. And there's my hot rod Chevelle. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. It was crazy. It was a crazy thing to do, driving 1.5 miles with my hood all the way up. It was very dangerous, but I got there safely, and we're good to go. All right, talk to you later. Bye.